Are you still looking for ways to use up those strips of fabric that we have left over from our backing? So today we're going to talk about how do you use up all of those strips that you have left over, and they're usually from the sides of quilt backs or maybe even from the tops and bottoms. I have a lot of them because I do a lot of charity quilts. So I have a lot of extra strips of fabric that are left over, and they always seem to accumulate, add up, and then it's like, well, what do you do with them? So I discovered this technique, probably 8 years ago, might even be longer than that. Not really sure when I made my first quilt like this. But this is the element that we're talking about here, is this nice circular pattern. And this was just one of those blocks that I was experimenting with, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And until it went in to this quilt, it just fit so nicely into this quilt, and it just made a really beautiful design element that I added to the top, and there's one at the bottom. And so this is just something I want to kind of introduce you to, use these ideas just a little bit different way. So today we're going to talk about what to do with those strips, and this is using the ruler, the Spiderweb ruler. Hi, I'm Roberta from Quilt Crafters Corner, and today I am really excited about this because this gives me the ability to use up all those extra strips I have, and I hope this is something that you would think, oh, well, that's a good idea. I love good ideas. I love comments. I love to know what you're working on. So leave me a comment, and I do respond to each and every one of them. So let's go over to the cutting table, and I'm going to show you how this works and kind of give you some ideas to think outside the box when making these blocks. Okay, so here we are at the cutting table. Now, originally when I did this, I was in my very matchy symmetrical type of mode. And like I said, that was probably 8 or 9 years ago. Might have been 10. So what I did when I first started doing those, and I'll put a picture of the original quilts that I made out of the very matchy fabric. So I want to show you some interesting ideas that you can do with this. Now, this is the ruler here, and it's called the Spiderweb ruler, and it's a Creative Grids. And I will put a link down in the description so you can go and get one if you don't have one already. Now, I didn't think I needed one, but once I got it, I was able to do a lot more with it than just these spiderweb things. I also used it for a kaleidoscope quilt, and that's another name that these blocks, they're calling these blocks. They're very much kaleidoscopic type of blocks. So from that point, it was helpful because it's got matching lines to do the background kites and pieces. So I want to show you that also. But this is the ruler here. And like I said, you really can't see it. I guess I could put a piece of paper under it. And you can see these white lines that are on it. And these white lines give you the kite shapes that go with the wedges that I'm going to show you how to do. Now these are just 2-inch strips. These are both backing fabrics that I had strips of, and I just sewed them together. And this is just really a simple, easy way to do this. And what you do is your little black corner up here, your little black corner is off the fabric. It's lined up with that top of fabric, and you're just going to line it up there, and you're going to cut. Now, you're just going to cut like that. Now, she says to do this, or they say to do that. That seems like way too much work for me. So I just flip the material, and I kind of just reline it up. And it seems to go just as fast for me this way as the other way. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get reverses. You're going to get 2 reverses, and see how these line up to be these really interesting design elements here. And look at this. Look at how this goes together. This is really quick, really easy. Doesn't take much effort to put these together. And the thing I love about them the most is that they you can do all different kinds of strips and get different elements. So there's the first one that you can do. Now to fill in the corners to make these edges work, that's where you use the second element. So I will show you that next. I do have an upcoming workshop, and it's talking more about not only things like this, how to use up those scraps, how to organize them, but maybe some unique, interesting ideas you never thought of. I want to give these ideas to you so that you can go, oh, well, I could do a whole new thing. And that's kind of what is really fun for me in quilting, is sharing these ideas and techniques with you so that you can go, oh, well, what if I did this? That's the fun of quilting. Okay, these are just simple wedges that I cut. And once again, this is all backing fabric that I have cut off of quilts. And I had the flowers pulled out for the lattice quilt. If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link up above here and down in the description for you to go check out if you haven't seen that one. That was a really easy, stunning quilt to make, and it went together fast. Like I said, it was all done out of backing fabric that was left over. And there's your next one. Okay, now, so I have these cut at 5 inches. So in order to get my corners, my 4 corners to fill in, on the ruler, there's a 5-inch mark, and right under it says 4 1/4. So this square is 4 1/2, but I'm going to use it anyways because it will work. So basically all I'm really going to do is I'm going to cut this in half. And once again, this ruler works for that too. Just cut, and you're cutting on the diagonal, and this is just going to fill in here. Now you're going to sew it to these edges and then trim it up, because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to make them a little bigger and then just trim it up so that you have a nice complete block. Now this makes a real simple, easy block, and you can do a whole bunch of these just like this, and you get that nice circle element. Okay, so this next one I want to show you is done with, once again, more backing fabric. This yellow, I think that was just some small strips I had, and this was left over from a border from my black, white, and red disappearing 9-patch quilt. And once again, I just sewed my strips together, and I like the black and white element because it just gives it a little bit of a more interesting flavor to your element, to your block. And just cut, flip it, and then I just cut again. Okay, so there you go. There's two more of those. Now let me show you the kite. To make the kite, what you need to do is these were, let me measure this again. These were not quite 5 1/2. So at the 5 1/2, I know I need a 4 3/4 inch block to make my kites. So here is a 4 3/4 inch block. And on this block, you're going to go to 4 3/4. That gives you the white diagonal line. You're going to match those white lines up with your square. And I kind of try to get it pretty straight in there. Okay, I've got it pretty straight in there. And then you're just going to cut. That'll go in my scrap bin. And there is my kite shape. And this is what makes this so easy, simple, and interesting. Look at how quickly that goes together. So this just line up, and I either do it on this piece or the other piece with my ruler, and I can even use this ruler again, is I like to put a 1/4 inch line on this back. And why I do that, because when I go to sew these and put this together, I can line that line up with the edge of my fabric there. And now down here at this end, you're going to have, you want it to match perfectly. Up here, it's going to overlap a little bit, but that's okay. And the reason why that's okay is because when you go to attach this one, you want that extra little piece of fabric. So I'll match this up really, really closely, and then I'll go and sew this, and then I'll go and do the same for this one here. So let me show you what those pieces look like. So those pieces look like this. Now, you can put them together this way. Or you can put them together another way. And this starts to create that circle pattern for you. Now this is very symmetrical, but I did this in order to show you the design and how this works. The other way you can put this together is this way. And look what you get. You get this lovely star in the center. Now how fun is that? It makes for a really interesting pattern, and it's kind of fun to do because I could have done all different colors here instead of the blue and just kind of made this really pretty star effect here in the center. These are simple ideas, really easy to do, and it kind of makes a really nice quilt. Now let's go back to this way, because when I put it this way, I can, I would have to keep continuing or creating these pieces here. Now, if I were to do a real scrappy quilt, these would not all go next to each other. I would put other things in between and just make it a very, very scrappy type of quilt and do different colors here and all through my strips. So let me show you the, there is one other way to do the background so that this is not a, so that you just have like a, you could fill in a corner and instead of just keep doing these blocks. So if you were to put all of these blocks together, well, let's see. Well, yeah, that'll work that way. Let's put it that way. And then this way. If I were to have this all the way around and say I didn't have those pieces there, what I need to do is on my kites, I need to double this, and then I will get a square that the size that I need. And then what I'll do is, once again, I'll cut this in half. I need my big ruler. And I'll just cut it from point to point. And now I've got two triangles. And I'll lay them right on top of each other, match them up. And then with my ruler again, I'm going to use the same size that I used for my kites, which was 4 3/4. And I'm going to line that 4 3/4 up here on my triangle. And I'm only going to cut one side. I'm just going to cut one side off. Now, what this does is this gives me this lovely corner piece. And where are, look what you get when you do that. Now these are a little big and they are meant to be bigger so you can trim them down, but this could be a lovely corner. So this ruler basically gives you all the abilities to make several different patterns using these strips and your scraps up. Now this is a real simple idea, and it can, there's many more things that you can do with this in order to make something really interesting, amazing. And let's go this way. So there's some ideas of what you could do with just some of these strips that we already have. And don't hesitate to play. I mean, putting this black and white in there was a real stretch for me, and I looked at it and went, well, why not? Let's just try it and see. And I really like it because it gives you that nice contrast against the orange and the yellow, and it makes kind of this really lovely pattern that you can put together, and it just goes together. It just really goes together. So don't be afraid to try new ideas and play with some interesting things that you've got. And look at that. We've got these lovely stars that we can put together, and look at how beautiful that is. It's just going to make a really, really stunning quilt. So this is just one of those ideas that you can do with those leftover strips. And now I have more strips over here that I'm going to be playing with and experimenting with. So let's move all of this. So I have, and these are all leftover from like strip piecing that I had done, and I just threw them in a box. And these were left from, I believe these were from crumb squares that I was working on. And I thought, well, isn't that cute? I can do some with that and make them smaller. I can make them bigger. There's many, many ideas that you can do with them. And then this red is just a really pretty red. And this in itself will make a nice, real pretty circle. So these are just some ideas I want you to take a look at, experiment with your strips, try them out, and let me know. I would love to hear what you do with this. Now I've got that workshop coming up, and in that workshop, we're going to talk about ideas like this, how to use up those scraps, how to organize it so we can use them up, so they just don't sit in that box over there in the corner and you just go, what am I going to do with those? Because I have this firm belief that they don't belong in my house. I need to use them up and get them out of my house. So I hope that was interesting to you, because when I discovered this idea and that I could use strips to do this, it was like, oh, I've got all those leftover pieces from those quilt backs, and it's like, what do I do with them? Because they were just adding up and piling up, and so they just need to be used. I love this idea. I have made several quilts with this idea, and they all have just turned out really stunning and really beautiful. I'll leave a link in the description below for the ruler itself, and don't forget, I've got that upcoming workshop. We're going to talk about what to do with those strips, what to do with those scraps, how to organize them, and get them used up, because they're not doing any good in that drawer over there. So I want to thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It does help me, and I do really appreciate it. Also, the comments. I love to hear what you're working on, or what you're doing, or what you think of this idea. Please leave me a comment, and I do respond to every single one of them. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. And until next time, happy quilting.